Hi guys, today we're going to react to Oubliette by Freeze the Fall. This is a Buy Me a Coffee request from Tabitha. Thank you, Tabitha, for yet another request. We appreciate all your support.
Thank you, Tabitha, one of our absolute best supporters. You've been amazing. Freeze the Fall, a band that we have grown to know and love through the show. We have recently announced that they will have a couple of songs in our upcoming film, Shadows of the Night. I'll include a link to the episode where we've announced it here as well, so you guys can check it out and potentially show your support to the band and the film. Thanks a lot, and let's check it out.
Is it comfortable to let me fade away like that? To be honest, does this all exist? Was I so
I don't know if I've said it this way about Freeze the Fall before, but they structure their songs in a way that's like a lightning strike in your soul. A simple enough structure that makes you engage with the song immediately. It hits all the right nerves. I don't think I've ever heard a Freeze the Fall song that I didn't love from the first 5 seconds of listening to it. They have this way of designing the structure. It's not trivial. It's not something that, yeah, sure, you're a musician, you should be able to do that. Regarding the title of the song, Oubliette, I think it means a dungeon that its access is through a trap door in the ceiling, or a door in the ceiling. But in the song, they reference, there's a line there, I'm paraphrasing, where they say the sun will show me what I could have had. Regarding the whole dungeon thing, I'm thinking there's a prisoner who can see daylight through that trap door, like it's a steel mesh or something. You can see outside, but they can't do anything about it. That's what I got so far, but it's very grim. It's a very heavy subject matter. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but beautiful performance so far. They didn't show Quinn at the beginning, but there's something about her voice that reminds me of Courtney Love. When we first reacted to Freeze the Fall, I said she kind of resembles Courtney Love. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Something that you said earlier about the way they construct a song, the way they put it all together, and how you fall in love with it within the first 5 seconds. And that is not just true, it's also in a way a marvel, because they have something that they do that makes their songs so addictive and so catchy, but it doesn't feel formulaic.
Yeah.
And that's a skill within itself. It's amazing how every time I hear a song of theirs, and this is so far the fifth, maybe fourth or fifth, I just straight away think this should be a massive hit every time. It just sounds so good. I mean, they're so good with their instruments, and Quinn's voice is amazing. Even some of the harmonies with the backing vocals they throw in there are just beautiful. It's amazing how far beyond their years they are. Being a young band, not even 20 years old, and this is the level that they're at. It's astounding. The songwriting, bringing in this whole imagery and analogy, and I mean, Oubliette, it's like a torture chamber. It's referring to some kind of prisoner, but with them, it's really on the surface. There's always some kind of hidden meaning within, that there are layers to peel, as I feel there are probably with this song. And I'll kind of wait until we get to the end of it to try to make up my mind as to what I think it is.
I think I've reached a point where I view Freeze the Fall not through the novelty of their age, but Even if they were a seasoned band, all veterans, all of age, I would still feel the same way about their music because good music is good music. So at the beginning, we were shocked and awed because of how good their music is and with regards to their age. But as you continue to react to their song, you see that's in their DNA. So now I see them through the lens of just their music. It's not, to me, it's not a flex that they're young. They're just magnificent musicians, and that's the respect they deserve.
I agree. We haven't even talked about the fact that they sing a whole verse here in French, which they haven't done before.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we'll try to get to that when we talk more about the meaning. Another thing that we have noticed before, but I'm definitely noticing it here, this music video is less, I guess, complex. There's less happening than some of their other ones as far as the storytelling aspect and the amount of story that they fit into it, I guess. But their sort of stage presence and kind of performance to the almost where we talk about how good actors they are, it still comes into it. They still know how to move, how to show that intensity and how to portray some of that pain that comes from the song, just in the way they stand there, play their instruments and perform it. And it's just another thing that's great to see about them.
I agree. The music video is less intricate from ones we reacted to before, the likes of VHS, for example. But it reminds me of another thing I appreciate about them. Their music is all about the song itself. They don't have any special virtuoso components in it with the purpose of showing off or something. They're just there for the song. Everything is for the song. It's for the message they want to deliver. And I have a great respect for that.
It's funny, you mentioned VHS, and in my head, I started going through the videos of their other songs, that we've seen, like Hypothermia. But it brought me back to the very first time we saw them, which was One Left Standing. And this is very similar to that. It's black and white, they're just performing, but there's something a bit more intense about the way they perform here, and also about the pain that they are portraying. This could be, or at least in my mind, almost like a sequel to that song, where One Left Standing talks about being the one left standing. There's something about this song here. There's something about the whole of being imprisoned, left behind, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily by someone. I think this might be by oneself, where you put yourself in a situation where you can't create. In a lot of ways, this torture chamber that they're talking about is somewhat of what people would term like a writer's block, like some kind of loss of muse when an artist wants to create and they can't for whatever reason. And that's how I see this song. There was a line there that says, "So I turn to my muse and I will immortalize where I'd return." There was another one where I think we just stopped after that line, says, "My sickly hands shall paint one last time." I think, or at least to me, that's what this torture chamber is. It's to be in that spot, and then you see a little bit of sun shining through, and your muse can come back to you and you can create again. That could potentially be a meaning to this one. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I got a little bit maybe sidetracked or confused by the French, because there's another segment here that has French and English, and I'm not sure what the meaning of the French is, if it's actually translating the English. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So there might be something I'm missing, but it feels a little bit like that. There was a line there that says, "And when your lungs no longer push air with the braids of words I bury you. We shall never part, which means we are one and the same to me. And it's like when you can't create, you feel like you can't breathe. That's kind of where it took me.
Yeah, it actually split into two possibilities in my mind when I think about it. It's either what you said, that the metaphor of the dungeon and the person who's locked in that dungeon and sees the light, they see hope, they see that that there's a way out. Or another interpretation is that that's the tragic part of hope. They always see outside, but they can't do anything about it. They're trapped. I like to think it's the first option. That's the more positive option, but I can't help but think about the second one.
As I'm going through it now, it feels like it also might be about loss. It starts off saying, is it comfortable to let me fade away like this? To be honest, does this all exist? Was I so wrong? Was I wrong? Am I wrong? Maybe somebody got left behind here. A loss that could have been a death or some sort of a separation, because later on, that whole section in French there says, I braid your words, every sentence that you said. I hold it every night. And when your lungs no longer push air, meaning what? When you die, I assume, with the braid of words I bury you, we shall never part. That could also be about loss, about losing someone, about the fact that loss can never be recovered. And it also feels like some sort of a torture. But there is sun shining through where you can actually go on. In that line that I mentioned before, so I turn to my muse and I will immortalize. So it's like through my music, through my creation, through my art, I will immortalize you in words in some way. That's another possibility. I just don't know. I don't feel confident actually about any of them, but it's throwing me in all kinds of directions because it's just so well written and so intriguing.
Yeah, I think to some extent that's the measure of a good song, the way it hacks into your mind and keeps you wondering. That's another thing that I love about Freeze the Fall. Also, with what you said about it may be being about loss, I kind of question if the French parts were meant for somebody specific to listen to, somebody specific that they dedicate those parts to.
It's quite possible. I think this is one of those rewards that we get with listening to Freeze the Fall. We get to really, really think about the written word, the lyrics of the song, and try to, in some way, understand where they're coming from and why they wrote it and what they meant by it. And sometimes it's almost like futile because you can't get into somebody's mind and it is open to interpretation. And sometimes you hit right on the money, sometimes you're far off, but it's still whatever you take away from the song is what you need to take away from the song. And that's where I feel their music gives any listener who listens to it something, whether it's the true intent behind it or not.
Yeah. Also, you need to remind yourself that the purpose is likely not to decipher what they meant, but to actually reach your own conclusions. And that's that. It's open for interpretation for a reason.
One last time.
It just confirms that there's a lot of rage behind this song. I feel like there's some sort of a release here, like they needed to let something out. Very, very emotional. Musically, I love it. And lyrically, everything I've discussed. The wheels are going to keep turning long after we finish this. And I'm just going to be thinking about it. Was it this? Was it that? Was I far off? Was I close? Is it one of those options? Is it something else? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I said earlier, I think it's not like a detective story where you need to find the right answer. I don't think that's the purpose here. But it's nice to know if we match to some extent their initial intent. And also, you said a release. I get the feeling that this is an ongoing process of therapy for them. Maybe that's what they want to project. If there's pain in there that's personal to them, that pain is not dealt with yet. They're still dealing with it.
I think art is always some kind of therapy. There's always pain in there, and sometimes there's hope, but it all usually comes from pain. Another thing that struck me as we were listening to it, there was something about those harmonies that I was referring to before. There was sort of haunting sound. It was coming again towards the end, and it made me think about it. And I think it was Queen and Aria. And it brought up that tension. And I felt, like I said, there was pain and release, maybe despair that was coming out there. And I think it was to create a certain duality, perhaps, that is to do with the message of acknowledging this state that the narrator is in, but refuses to be locked up in it, in this chamber. Very, 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 very freaking cool.
Yeah. Also, the visual representation, when we see them play, mostly when we see them play, there are some different camera angles, but it's very noticeable that there's a high angle on them. Like we're seeing them through that trap door. They're all trapped in that dungeon. And they also look disheveled in their attire and the girl's hair.
A little messy, yeah.
Yeah, messy. So in my mind, it's not a physical messiness. It's like they're lost souls in that dungeon and they've been there for a while. They've been trying to process this pain for a while. And this is another entry from that dungeon for them to send out into the world.
And that line that was written on the ground there, was I wrong? That's kind of the point here, I assume. I can't fully put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think it's like a dial that questions elements within the question. Was I so wrong? The second one means, was I even wrong? Maybe it could have been right. The third one said, am I wrong? Am I wrong now? More stuff to think about, but no answers.
Yeah, and it also brought me to that point where if you are being tortured, if you're locked away somewhere, you question reality. You question your experience, you question your memories, you question everything. That's what I thought those lines were about, about being wrong. Because before that, it says, to be honest, does this all exist? The narrator's like been through so much that they're not even sure if this is real or not. So yeah, this whole imprisonment, it felt to me like it was in one's own mind, but it could be anything and everything, really. Again, an amazing song. And thank you so much, Tabitha, for bringing us back to Freeze the Fall. Just an amazing band and an amazing song. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Tabitha, for this request. We enjoyed reacting to Freeze the Fall very much. More like this will be much appreciated. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this episode, guys, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and click the little bell icon so you get notified of all our future videos. If you have a song in mind you'd like us to react to, please make a request through BuyMeACoffee. The link is at the top of the description below. Thank you all for sticking with us. Thank you all for your time.
As always, our Freeze the Fall reactions playlist should be up on the screen sometime about now. Give it a click, check them out. Awesome band. Thank you so much for showing your support all the way through. We appreciate it so much. We'll be back in a couple of days with a new episode, and we hope to see you all then. Thanks again, guys. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.